Yeah.
Leaders from Google and General Motors are urging Congress to create legislation that would help speed up efforts to get those self-driving cars on the road. In testimony yesterday, they made the case that although the self-driving vehicles are only a few years from being on the market, state laws and testing rules could slow their progress. But one expert warned of the risk of rushing the technology. Tim Stevens is editor-in-chief of Roadshow, the new auto site at our partners, CNET. Joins us at the table. Hey, Tim Stevens.
Good morning.
So this is going to happen. We all see it coming.
It is
so
gonna
what needs to happen before the cars actually do hit the road? What do they want?
Right now, what Google and what others are asking for is basically a consistent set of legislation across the country. We have 6 states right now that do allow autonomous cars to be tested on the roads, but the legislation in those states is very different as you go from one to the other. Some require special licenses, some require special equipment in the cars, and it's very difficult to go from one state to the next. And the only way these cars are going to get better is to test them on every road in the country.
There was a robotics expert who spoke at this hearing yesterday, and she said there's no question that someone is going to die in this technology and that these self-driving cars are absolutely not ready. So what are the safety concerns at this point?
There are definitely safety concerns. We just saw a Google car actually get into an accident. It hit a bus at only 2 miles an hour. There was nobody injured. But ultimately, there are mistakes that are going to be made. But ultimately, the potential of these is so great that that's what people are looking for. There are going to be mistakes made in the short term. But in the long term, there's a 2008 study that showed that over 90% of all crashes involve some sort of human error, ultimately. And if you can get a self-driving car, it can eliminate a lot of those errors. They can be a lot safer in the long run and save a lot of lives down the road.
She also testified that hackers could get into the system.
Right, and there are certainly a lot of vulnerabilities in these cars right now because they are very early and they're still being tested. GPS, for example, is very easy to spoof. You can very easily convince a car that it is somewhere that it isn't. But these cars all have a lot of redundancies and a lot of failback systems that they can fall back on. But again, that's part of the things that these researchers need to get into. This is still very early nascent technology, and there's a lot of research and a lot of testing that needs to come.
But you say there's financial benefits to self-driving cars. How so? There's
a lot of financial benefits. If you're looking at a company like Uber or Lyft, where they're basically taking people from one place to the other, they have to have a lot of overhead in terms of having drivers and benefits and things like that. If you can get rid of the drivers, ultimately, that's a lot of cost savings for them. But for individuals, you can see cars no longer needing insurance because ultimately, if they're not going to crash, you won't have to pay for insurance. These cars can be a lot lighter and they can be a lot more efficient as well because you won't need as much safety equipment within the cars if they won't crash as much. So the long-term benefits are quite compelling.
You see it happening when?
Well, I think
what do you see, Tim?
Putting my hat on with my crystal ball. We're seeing some of this technology on the road right now. Teslas can do semi-autonomous driving on the highway right now. Both Volvo and Mercedes-Benz have cars coming out this year that can drive on the highway, even with your hands off the wheel for a limited time. But the actual, get in the car, take a nap, wake up at your destination kind of stuff, that's at least 5 years down the road for major metropolitan areas. And get into rural America, you're looking at 20 years or so.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.